If you've been anywhere near the Miraculous fandom this week, you've probably noticed that Tomas Astruc is trending. Again. At this point, I don't even think that's news anymore. Every couple of months, there's another screenshot making the rounds on Twitter, another debate, another argument, and somehow the fandom finds itself split into two completely different camps. This time, though, the conversation wasn't about Season 6's writing, Chloe, or whether Cerise is a better villain than Gabrielle. It all started because fans wanted to know something surprisingly simple. How old are the characters now? Now, on the surface, that doesn't sound like a ridiculous question. MiRaCuLoUs has been running for almost 10 years. We've watched these characters grow emotionally, the story has gone through multiple arcs, relationships have changed, villains have come and gone, and the show itself has almost reinvented itself with Season 6. So naturally, fans started wondering whether Marinette and Adrien were still the same age they were back in Origins, or whether time had actually moved forward. It's the sort of question almost every long-running fandom eventually asks. Tomas Astruc's answer, however, wasn't what people expected, not the politest. Rather than giving an exact age or saying that the information hadn't been decided yet, he explained that things like birthdays, zodiac signs, blood types, and exact heights simply aren't important unless they actually serve the story. He even argued that newer writers often become obsessed with filling in every tiny detail about their characters, whereas experienced writers focus on what genuinely matters to the narrative. From a storytelling perspective, that's actually a fairly common philosophy. Plenty of writers leave parts of their worlds intentionally undefined because they don't believe every single detail needs an official answer.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You serious?
The problem is, Twitter isn't exactly famous for rewarding nuance. Because the moment those replies started circulating, people stopped discussing writing philosophy and started discussing Thomas himself. Some fans felt like he wasn't just answering the question, they felt he was talking down to people for even asking it. Others argued that he'd completely missed the point. Nobody was demanding a 50-page biography from Marinette, they were just curious whether the characters had aged after 6 seasons. To many fans, those little details aren't pointless trivia. They're part of what makes fictional characters feel alive. And honestly, I can understand both perspectives. From Thomas's point of view, if Marinette's birthday never changes the plot, why spend time establishing one? It's an entirely valid creative decision. Writers cut unnecessary information all the time. If something never affects the narrative, leaving it ambiguous isn't automatically bad writing. In fact, plenty of successful stories do exactly that. At the same time, fans aren't wrong either. Character profiles have existed for decades. Anime does it, comics do it, Disney does it. Even when those details never influence the story, audiences enjoy learning them because they make the world feel a little richer. Asking how old the main characters are after following them for nearly a decade isn't some bizarre request. It's probably one of the most normal questions a fandom can ask. I think what made this discussion spiral wasn't necessarily the answer itself, it was the delivery. Tomas Astruc has always had a very direct online presence. Some people appreciate that because he doesn't sugarcoat his opinions. Others think it comes across as unnecessarily confrontational. Whether that's fair or not, it's a reputation he's built over many years, which means that even perfectly reasonable comments are often interpreted through that lens. Personally, I think the biggest lesson here is that communication matters just as much as intention. A creator can have a perfectly reasonable opinion, but if it's delivered in a way that feels dismissive, people will focus on the tone instead of the point. Likewise, fans are absolutely entitled to disagree, but social media has a habit of turning relatively small disagreements into community-wide controversies within a matter of hours. One tweet becomes 10 screenshots, those screenshots become YouTube videos, and before long, everyone's arguing over something that probably wasn't meant to become this big in the first place. At the end of the day, I don't think this debate is going to change MiRaCuLoUs in any meaningful way. Marinette doesn't suddenly become a different character because we don't know her official birthday. But I do think it's another reminder of why Tomas Astruc's relationship with the fandom continues to be such a talking point. Whether you agree with him or not, he has a way of turning even the smallest conversations into some of the biggest discussions in the community. And somehow, That's become almost as much a part of the miraculous experience as the show itself.